Hello, y'all, and welcome back. So you have to be able to take questions and answer them intelligently to show that you have knowledge. And Socrates has shown that Melius doesn't have knowledge in the relevant area, namely the charges he's bringing against Socrates. But he shows a lot more. So if we work backwards with these three basic psychological principles, we show that Socrates is revealing an enormous amount about not only what's in Melius's head, but what's in his heart. Because if the ability to take questions reveals your knowledge and you can't take questions, you don't have knowledge. But knowledge reveals what you think about, because if you think about something a lot, you'll know about it. So if you don't know about it, logically, you don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. And if what you think about reveals what you care about and you just don't think about it a lot, that shows that you don't really care about that. So Socrates has succeeded in showing not just that Melius doesn't know about the things that he's bringing, the charge he's bringing against Socrates, but he also doesn't really care about them. And legally, that's very damning for Melius, because the entire case of the prosecution rests on the idea that you have this person who really does care about defending the honor of the city and the gods and the moral integrity of the young men. And because they have this insight into what, helps and hurts these causes, they can perceive that this guy's a threat and he has to go. He has to die, in fact. And Socrates has shown in like 15 minutes that Melius just doesn't care about those things at all, and is then obviously bringing these charges for totally different reasons. Now, legally, unfortunately, this is kind of moot, because as Socrates himself says in his trial, to the jury, the members of the jury, who are all much younger than him, your minds have kind of been poisoned against me by these malicious rumors, these kind of misleading rumors from when you were very young. So Socrates' ability legally to expose the prosecution doesn't matter nearly as much as it perhaps should. But as a microcosm of Socrates' day-to-day philosophy, what does it show? I want to read through, to answer this question, I want to read through another small excerpt from the Apology. And here Socrates is entertaining a hypothetical plea bargain. He says, "You might say to me, we'll let you go, Socrates. No penalty, no jail time, no fine, no hard feelings even, but just stop doing philosophy." Now, this is a very natural thing to suppose. Somebody might, be thinking that on the jury right now. Why is this guy risking his life? And here is how Socrates responds, okay? He says, if, as I say, you were to acquit me on those terms, I would say to you, men of Athens, I am grateful and I am your friend, but I will obey the god rather than you, and as long as I draw breath and am able, I shall not cease to practice philosophy, to exhort you, and in my usual way to point out to any one of you whom I happen to meet. We'll pause there for a second. So I got a low battery warning. Been doing this for too long. So Socrates says, I can't stop doing philosophy, and here's my philosophical method. Here's what I'm going to do. So he's going to reveal to us what he, the inventor of philosophy, means when he says philosophy. Now, it begins with the question he asks. Socrates' aim, recall, is to make the people around him better, and this is what he engages them in a conversation about. So he says, I begin by saying, good sir, you are an Athenian, a citizen of the greatest city with the greatest reputation for both wisdom and power. Are you not ashamed of your eagerness to possess as much wealth, reputation, and honors as possible, while you do not care for nor give thought to wisdom or truth or the best possible state of your soul? So Socrates wants people to be better, but he doesn't directly take them to task for their moral character, for who they are. Instead, he takes them to task for something closely related, but importantly different, namely what they care about. So he doesn't say, aren't you ashamed that you're a bad person? He says, aren't you ashamed that you don't think about or care about being a good person? And this is because Socrates is an extraordinarily keen, perhaps the keenest ever, student of human psychology. And he knows that who we are as a person, our character, which we defined earlier, including our virtues and vices, is made up of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of different factors. Every aspect of our biology, our parentage, the time and place in which we were born, the way we were raised, educated, all of this goes into your character, your moral worth. This is one of the reasons that I find the back and forth over astrology so fascinating. Some people are very heavily invested in it, and others think it's complete lunacy and it's a waste of time. And the question is, does the time of year in which you were born make a difference in your character? And it's such a strange thing for me to get, from my perspective, get worked up over, because the answer to that question is, of course it does. Of course it makes a difference. Somebody who's born in the wintertime, the first few months of their life, they're going to have a totally different experience of reality than someone who's born in the summer. The temperature, the way the outside looks, the angle and amount of light, the clothing and mannerisms of the people around them, it's all going to be vastly different than, again, if they were born in the summer. And their experience of life in those first few months is going to have an enormous amount, science tells us, of influence in shaping how they turn out. It doesn't, of course, determine personality in the way that an ardent devotee of astrology might maintain, but it does shape it, because everything shapes it. Everything shapes your character. So we're keenly aware that of these factors that shape our character. Some of them are up to us. Some of them are in our control, but a lot of them are not. And it's often difficult, and I think impossible sometimes, to tell which is your choice and which was just kind of your circumstances. And so if you go after someone's character directly, if you say, you're not a good person, then you direct their attention and yours to that immensely tangled web of experiences and factors. And here, even the very wisest of us can't pull apart which is our choice and which is circumstances. And so we get confused, justifiably, and defensive, and all discussion abruptly ends. And Socrates knows this, so he doesn't address that at all. Instead, he directly addresses something that you do have control over. He addresses what you care about, what you spend time thinking about. While the many aspects of our character and personality may not be up to us, we do choose what we spend time thinking about. And this is what he directly addresses. Recall, he says, you do not care for nor give thought to wisdom or truth or the best possible state of your soul. What do you choose to think about? What gets your time? What gets your attention? To speak for a moment, perhaps in kind of biblical terms, where is your heart? And everyone he talks to takes the bait. Let's continue. He says, if one of you disputes this and says he does care, which is a little tongue-in-cheek, because everybody says they care, what happens next? I shall not let him go at once or leave him, but I shall question him, examine him, and test him. These are synonyms. It's not three different steps. He questions them. And what he does is exactly what he does with Melius. He says, all right, if you care about this, you think about it. If you think about it, you know about it. And if you know about it, I can tell, because you'll be able to answer these questions well. And so he takes some time asking these questions. But again, whereas with Melius, his goal was to show that Melius doesn't care about the things that he says he cares about, the well-being of the men of the city and honoring the gods, here the goal is to show these people don't care as much as they say they do about being a good person, and perhaps by extension about their children and loved ones being good people. How this wraps up and the main points about Socrates' philosophical method we'll see in the next video. Thanks.